Hey everybody, welcome to Performance Anxiety Side Projects. This week we welcome back guitarist turned oncologist turned guitarist Karen Haglof. We talk a lot about the early punk scenes in the Midwest and in New York, and we also discuss her new album that just came out, Tobiano. Give her a follow on social media, check out the album, and purchase it at KarenHaglof.com. Give us a follow at PerformanceANX on Twitter and Instagram, and check out our merchandise at performanceanx.threadless.com. I hope you enjoy this episode of Punk and Karen Haglof.
Well, let's try this. Here we go. This is Karen Haglof, downtown minimalist, with a new album out called Tobiano, and you are listening to Performance Anxiety.
I may actually completely astound you with my lack of punk knowledge tonight. So.
Oh, geez, well... I may not have that much punk knowledge to share either. We'll see.
So I figured, why don't we talk about that a little bit? The scene that you were involved in back in the the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great scene back when I started playing guitar. I was in bands and everything. I was about 1976, something like that. And I played in an almost all-girl band. There were 4 girls and one guy, and we played ballrooms all throughout the Midwest, like North and South Dakota, Iowa, Lower Canada, Wisconsin. Okay. And we were called Spitfire, and first it was spelled with a PH, so SPITPH. Yeah, IRE. So, as in keeping with the times at the time.
Right.
And we played, Rolling Stones, and we played some Led Zeppelin, we played hard rock, and then we did like The Boys Are Back in Town when Thin Lizzy came out, and we played My Boyfriend's Back because we had to harken back to the girls groups in the olden days. Okay. And that was before punk started, more or less, or it was before there was really much it was more of a hard rock and rock and roll type of a feeling then. Yeah,
before it started to spread.
Right. And then, the Minneapolis scene just started developing around then. There was a place called the Blitz Bar, which was this tiny little, kind of hole-in-the-wall bar in downtown Minneapolis, where one of the bands that I went to see was called the Suicide Commandos. And they kind of turned everything on their head. I mean, they were stripped down trio and played everything fast and everything, right to the point. And they were probably the forerunners of what we would consider punk back then.
Okay.
And they played their own music, too.
Be in a bad position. You get away with far too much. I'm crying, but you won't even listen. I'm crying because we're losing touch.
They played their own original songs, which was something new and different because we were basically a cover band out in the hinterlands, touring around and playing, for all these clubs and wanting to play in Minneapolis, but it wasn't, it was a little competitive then. We had a lot easier time getting gigs out around the, 5-state area then.
Okay.
And the Commandos came in and this whole music scene started developing, and Jay's Longhorn was, at first it was a kind of a jazz bar. You could go upstairs to the upstairs area and you could hear his jazz. I saw Pat Martino there many times.
Ooh, I love Pat Martino.
Yeah, no, great. He was great. And, slowly but surely our little cover band Spitfire with the PH became Spitfire with an F, keeping with the more, kind of stripped down and to the point vibe. And I traded in my platform shoes for platform sneakers and then regular sneakers and, bell bottoms for straight leg peg pants and the whole kind of vibe. T-shirts and jeans was the way it was. And, really became very much a part of the scene there. Playing at Jay's Longhorn and then getting to know all the bands that played there. And it was really a great time to kind of be, a young musician with no responsibilities, basically.
Oh. So was it local bands that really drew you into punk, or was it some of the other bands that were, I guess, maybe becoming more well known, like the Ramones and Television and bands like that?
I mean, that was all kind of happening at the same time. I mean, our little scene with the Commandos, the Suicide Commandos, was, I guess they were probably early for that. But, you know, at the same time, yeah, Television was coming out and you know, I'm probably all off on my years and everything. But, yeah, the Ramones were definitely around at that point as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, just the scene that was starting to develop was definitely a homemade do-it-yourself scene, which was kind of, you know, punk sensibility, basically.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that always, with my little bit of punk knowledge, was always fascinating to me, is that without things like the internet and social media and video chats like we've got now and the ability to live stream shows and things like that, the punk movement all kind of came together in different areas all at the same time, like London, New York, Minneapolis, like you're saying.
It is pretty amazing. How did we do things in those days?
I don't know.
There was a band that came up from Lincoln, Nebraska called the Boys, which were they had a little bit of a punk sensibility, but they were also a little bit glam, and they were kind of a hybrid of a lot of different things. And so there was definitely, they came up to Minneapolis to try and, you know, become more well known, and they played their own music. I mean, it was really a great era for, you know, having a local scene and being able to kind of make a go of it on some level.
When I was really getting in my formative years of music, I wasn't a big punk fan, because to me, punk was just that hyper aggressive, 3-chord Ramones, Black Flag kind of stuff. But as I've gotten older, I've discovered that bands like Television and Blondie and the Talking Heads were all still considered part of that genre, but there was the whole new wave versus punk, you know. I mean, like Blondie's new wave, you know, which was kind of like, okay, stripped down from the old wave apparently, but not quite punky, but maybe punk. So there was always that thing. Well, is it new wave? Is it punk? And it's kind of an artificial divide looking back, but there was that kind of you know, categorization at that time as well. Okay. And I guess, you know, 30, 40 years down the road, I guess that kind of gets blurred a little bit, because now you see Blondie thrown in as one of the originators of punk, because they played at places like CDBaby.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But back in that day, I guess maybe, and I guess it goes with a lot of different musical movements and scenes, is that you will see that pigeonholing of bands. Well, they're not punk, they're more new wave. They're not this, they're more that. And as it gets more and more past that period, it gets more generalized.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it all lumps into a larger category after many years go by.
Yeah. And so how big was the scene in Minnesota? Because you hear a lot about the scenes in London and New York, but you don't hear of it. You hear about a little scene more in LA, but you don't hear about places like the Midwest.
It was fairly vibrant and developing. I mean, there were several. There was Curtis A. I don't know if you know Curtis A., but he was a definite, you know, played with multiple different bands, all playing original material. There was the Flamingos, which now became the Flaming O's, and they were an original band. And Flaming O's were, you know, they were more new wave, and the Suicide Commandos were more punk, and there were multiple other bands that played as well. And there was the Longhorn, there was the Blitz Bar, there was Uncle Sam's, there was First Street Entry after a time. There was multiple bars that you could play at, and I mean, basically back in those days, I mean, I worked in a music store, and I was at the Longhorn almost every night if I wasn't some band play someplace else. And sometimes playing and sometimes just listening. Always, you know, it was really a place where you went to meet the people that you wanted to hang out with, or or that you wanted to maybe play in a band with, or hear somebody play. We opened my band, The Crackers, which was with Steve Almus, who was my band producer now, who was in the Suicide Commandos. So there's all that history.
So it all goes back to...
We opened for the Police back then at the Longhorn.
Wow. So it all goes back to Minneapolis punk.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So all right. So a band like the Police, at that time, I mean, now it's the Police, you know.
Yeah, no, at that time, no. They were traveling around in a station wagon, loading their own gear. I mean, it was...
Man.
Yeah, we saw the Stranglers played there. That was, a very... I remember that show very well, the Stranglers. I mean, there was like a wall of sound. They were a little dark, but, they were good.
Yeah. Now, so for Spitfires, was there a gradual transition to punk from a cover band, or was it just like you heard it and you're like, all right, we got to do this? Was it?
I mean, there's always a little bit of that. I mean, there was a little bit of a personnel change. Somebody's moving out to California, and somebody doesn't want to play this, or there was one of our first singers and guitar players besides me. They did not want to play things that they thought were more poppy. They wanted to play more Rolling Stones. Then they left, and so there's always that. There's always differences of opinion that sometimes lead to splitting of members, which then leads to different pathways taken.
Okay.
But after the downtown Minneapolis scene more or less got started, then it was like, we want to change this up. We don't want to be a cover band. We want to, play original material. And I like this new sensibility, and it's great to walk around in sneakers instead of platform shoes. And so it's a whole fashion plus music kind of thing.
Okay. And that makes sense too, because that was part of the punk ethos, was that anybody could get up and do it. You could walk up on your jeans and t-shirt and be in a band.
That was it. And you could play 3 chords and you could be in a band. And, you just had to want to do it, and you had to, mean it or believe it, and people did it. And I mean, it just, took it to the level that, well, why can't I do this? Why shouldn't I be able to do this? And I appreciate that.
Yeah. And you eventually left the Minneapolis scene. At what time was that? You ended up going to New York.
I came to New York in '79, so it was pretty early on with a, kind of a power pop punk type of a band. I mean, it was the Crackers, Steve Almus's band. He was the person who wrote the material. Pretty stripped down kind of vantage point into pop, but, power pop and, punk informed it as well.
Okay. And then you ended up playing with Reese Chatham for a while.
Yeah, I was a downtown minimalist, which I still am. Still a downtown minimalist.
And did that grow out of the minimalization maybe of punk?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, back when I was in the cover band and I was, trying to match Jimmy Page's licks or Joe Perry's licks, and then, then the Clash came out, and it's like, well, this is just as awesome, if not more awesome. I mean, they're all awesome, but I mean, in a whole different way. And it's like, well, I started to strip down my approach to guitar as well. And that very much fit in with minimalism and downtown kind of, the noise bands. And they don't sound like noise to me. They sound like, moving kind of walls of music. And, that's where I met Robert Poss and all of them and that whole so Band of Simpsons, and that it all kind of makes some sort of sense, I think, if you look at it.
Moving wall of music. That's a perfect way to describe Reese Chatham's music to me.
It is. It's like,
never thought of it like that, but that's the perfect description.
Yeah, downtown minimalism is those were great days too. I mean, there felt like there was a lot of excitement and energy in that scene.
Yeah, and that was the time where punk was still pretty big in New York at that point.
Yeah. It was, there was definitely overlap in all of it.
Was there a big punk influence when you joined Band of Susans?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I mean, there's still a big do-it-yourself, a DIY influence. And so that part of ethos of punk is probably part of things as well.
Okay, yeah, because I noticed that with
Steve Albini's group, and we toured with them once in his band Rape Man, and I wouldn't call that punk, but it's certainly informed by it, and I really like that music as well.
Okay, because I always thought of Band of Susans more like avant-garde than a punk band.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, they're definitely, I would say the song structure is definitely more complex and
yeah, well, Band of Susans would have songs that are, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes long, where punk...
Well, whatever amount of time you need to get what you have to say said.
That's right. More punk songs are typically a lot shorter, so that's, I guess, maybe
a couple minutes is pretty
pretty
long at 2 minutes,
Yeah, well, you got to do all that, that down picking. That wears your forearm out.
Yes, it does.
Ouch. Then, and some people who maybe haven't heard your first episode on this podcast may not know that you went from punk rock to avant-garde art rock to oncology, which is quite a shift. Yeah,
a little bit of a stretch, but really, the two things are kind of melded together through restaurant work. I mean, that's the glue that goes together is restaurant work.
That holds everything together.
Yeah, so it's like you're coming along and you're a musician, and it's like, rent is due, and then restaurant work. Restaurant work is the maximum thing that you're doing, and the music is way down here. And then the restaurant work is like, okay, I don't think I can be in restaurants forever. What should I do? Oh, I guess I'll go be a doctor. Yeah. Well, it wasn't quite that simple, but the restaurant work is what holds the two things together.
That's crazy. And if we went into great detail on that on your first appearance on this show, so I don't think we need to revisit the entire thing, but I don't think so either. Because of the med school break and the career, you took quite a break from recording, and you've just recently come out with your third full length album, and you had an EP a few months ago, Palomino Steady Rockin', which I loved. Thought that was fantastic.
Thank you.
And the new album, Tobiano, there's definitely an equine theme running through these two releases.
Yeah, there's there's a little bit of an equine theme, but not, the title is because Tobiano is a type of color pattern of a horse, a black and white horse or two-color horse. And I think it's appropriate because there's a lot of variability in some of these songs. The first one is pretty hard hitting, Tobiano Twirl. And the second one is a country song, as far as I'm concerned. That's kind of where I go with all of this.
Yeah, well, and that's one thing one reason I wanted to talk to you about the punk scene was because I definitely hear some punk influence on Tobiano Twirl and Favor.
Yes, I'm tired down to my bones, but I've heard this is the way to make it to a big
But now Favor is really cool because right in the middle of it, you get this weird melodic shift, and it doesn't sound punk at all.
No, I call that the Joni Mitchell section myself.
That's a good description of it.
Literally, that's like, okay, this is the Joni Mitchell section, and then we're going back to the, That's the kind of the kind of thoughtful, what am I thinking in my mind, Joni Mitchell, kind of ethereal section. And then it goes back to.
Well, it's really cool. It's really unexpected. I wasn't prepared for that at all. And it hit me because I was actually at my day job listening to the album, and I'm sitting there doing my job, bopping along to the music. And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, wait, that's different. That's the same song. And it was really cool. I love when musicians will do things like that to just kind of make sure you're paying attention. Yeah,
well, thank you. You got where I was coming from then with that.
Well, is punk still a big influence in your songwriting?
Well, I think punk is kind of, if it weren't for that background, I don't know if I'd be doing music again. But I think, there's a lot more do-it-yourself ability these days, and that having done it before, I mean, even the ability to, develop podcasts or put out your own music, all of that, is somewhat related, I think. So I think having the idea that, well, I can just do this. I don't know why I can't do this. And then going ahead and doing that, I think that it still informs today, just like it did then. Okay. And kind of even like, well, a lot of people told me I couldn't go to medical school, but I managed to do it.
You did.
So there you go. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can take from that is like, well, I don't care what others say. I'm just going to do what I think I want to do. And I'm going to, I'm going to make a success out of it in whatever way I can.
Well, Tobiano is fantastic. And I love that the title actually works really well with all the different sounds in the album.
I thought it did. I'm pretty happy with this record. I think it came out pretty well.
I was listening to it for the past couple of days. It's been fantastic. Humbled and Chastened has really cool country tinges to it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to tell you, Because of You definitely sounds like it could be a Band of Susan song. It sounds like Robert Poss had a little hand writing that one.
Well, as a matter of fact, he wrote the whole thing.
When you left the room, there were whispers. You're an object of lust, the subject of mystery. Tonight the pilot.
That is my homage to Band of Susans. This is my favorite Band of Susan song. I always wanted to cover it, and so I did. And I emailed him, like last year, said, "Hey, Robert, do you mind if I cover a band, Because of You on this next record?" And so, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I've been waiting to do that song since I played it back then.
Well, it's fantastic. It's really, really, I mean, obviously, because you can pick up without even, and to be honest with you, I love Band of Susans, and I didn't make that connection at first until you said, and it's really, it's one of the standouts to me on the album.
Oh, great. Yeah, because I was pretty proud of how it turned out. I mean, I love the way we used to do it in the Band of Susans, but I think this is a different spin on it. Yeah, I don't know if you remember that song, but you can find it on YouTube, like the Peel Sessions version and all that.
Yeah, I do. And, to be honest, it's been a while since I've listened to some of the old Band of Susans, so it didn't click immediately. So and for the listeners, you were on the Love Agenda album, and which is considered one of the classic Band of Susans albums. It's a fantastic listen. Now, I have a question for you. Now, were any of the songs recorded at the same time as Palomino Steady Rockin'?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of all were in the same time frame. Well, not exactly, but yeah, there's some overlap there, definitely. And it just seemed like the Palomino Steady Rockin' little EP, those songs kind of fit together, and these ones fit together in a different way.
Is it the same band lineup for all the songs?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the same drummer, Charlie Roth, and mainly Steve on bass. I play bass on a couple of things, and Charlie plays bass on a couple of things. And then we got Crispin Q in to play saxophones on one, and we got John Graboff to play pedal steel, and some great singers came in, Liza Colby and Cheryl Marshall and Leanne Smith to do some background vocals, and so a little bit expanded compared to before, in terms of additional personnel, but.
Well, it all works really well. It's got so many different sounds, but it's very cohesive, and it's a really fun listen.
Oh, good. I'm glad you think so.
Oh, yeah. And it was produced, like you said, by Steve Almus from Suicide Commandos.
Yep.
And so you got your Minneapolis punk connection there. Yep, pretty much, yeah. So, and I really do like what you said about you just deciding you wanted to do it. And just saying, why can't I do it? Let me do it. And just doing whatever songs you wanted to do, right? You wanted to write a song that sounded a little more country? You did it.
Yeah.
Fumbled and chasing from our last go-round. News of our antics is all over town. Folks keeping score don't even think twice. They've named me the bad guy and I just don't play nice.
Nobody can stop me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I guess, that's another little touchstone to the punk ethos is just do it yourself. Do it the way you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So
I think so.
And I'm really enjoying the album. I know my wife's enjoying the album. Where can people find the album if they want to buy it?
Well, if you wanted to buy it, it's on iTunes. Or you can actually get a copy of it at CDBaby.com or on Amazon. And then I believe it's streaming on Spotify as well. If you just want to take a listen. So.
Now, are you going to be promoting the album with touring, or are you staying local to New York?
I'd love to do that, but I have a really hard time putting any time together away from work right now. But I'm hoping to play a few gigs in New York area, over the summer. So stay tuned. I'll let you know.
Where can people find out this information? Can they follow you on social media, or is there a website?
Oh, yeah. You can Instagram and Facebook, definitely. Karen Haglof at both.
That's fantastic. All right, Karen, this is kind of a short episode. I know it's a Friday night and you're in New York, so I know there's like a billion things to do. So I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I'm just such a social butterfly.
Maybe you got some more songs to write.
Yeah, I think I'll go write another song.
There you go. Do something a little reggae or something. This time.
Maybe. Maybe a dub version of something.
Okay, thank you so much for coming on again. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks very much for having me, Mark. I really appreciate it.
Oh, anytime you want to come back on, we can talk more punk.
I'll come up with we'll think of some topics. We'll discuss horses, or we'll discuss whatever. Yeah, you could teach me a little bit about horse riding, because I haven't ridden a horse in 20 years. Oh, we can talk horses then. That's our horse riding experiences. You can tell me why you haven't ridden a horse in 20 years. Oh, I can tell you that right now, because the last time I rode was with my cousins down in Alabama. They didn't have a saddle. I got on it, and the horse just took off. Ah, there you go. So that horse want you riding. No, I was doing like 20 miles an hour, grabbing the horse's mane, holding on for dear life. So that was the last time I rode. Okay, well, we'll have to talk you off the ledge on that one. Yeah, I think I'd do it again. I would definitely do it again. But I mean, not the bareback at 20, 30 miles an hour thing. But no, you go for a saddle this time. And, a Western saddle where there's a lot of, I'll do a little more prep. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for coming on again. I really do appreciate this, the extra little time you've given me. Thanks, Mark. Hundreds of papers prove your importance, relevance to the cutting edge. Policymaker, a mover and shaker. Not above a push off the ledge. Hundreds of papers